Hello everybody, my name is Max and welcome to another pronunciation lesson. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at linking sounds. We're going to learn what are these linking sounds. We're going to learn exactly all different types of linking or blending sounds. Sometimes we drop some sounds, sometimes we add extra sounds when we're talking in order to improve fluency. We're going to learn all of these stuff, and you have to practice, you have to try to repeat them when you are, for example, listening to some of these audio files here in this lesson. Try to pause the video, repeat them so that you can learn them and you can say them the same. So let's start and let's see what they are. All right, so let's start with linking. So usually when you speak or when you want to speak fluently, speakers often do different things. The first thing is they do not pronounce the last consonant of a word. For example, many speakers would not pronounce the final T in the word but. They don't say but. They say but, and they just move on. Also, sometimes they link. Link means they connect the last consonant of a word to the word which follows when begins with a vowel. For example, they connect this. For example, let's say sometimes, of course, there are many examples here we're going to take a look at. In some examples, for example, we're going to take a look at the examples below. Many speakers would link the final T of didn't to answer. For example, they say didn't answer, didn't answer. They say didn't answer. So they connect the final T to the word answer because T is consonant, A is a vowel, so they try to connect it. And it sounds like it's one word rather than two words. We say didn't answer, not didn't answer. Let's take a look at some examples as we mentioned here. For example, look at here. He understood. Now, again, this D, let me read it without reduction, without saying any of those reduction. I can say he understood, but didn't answer. Now here, when I'm saying it, it's not that fluent. Like you can say it, it's correct, but it's not that fluent. Now, if I delete those D, that D at the end of understood, and delete the T sound, which is the consonant at the end of these words, and I link didn't to answer, it becomes way easier. So instead of saying he understood, I can say understood, but didn't answer. He understood but didn't answer, but didn't answer, but didn't answer. So you see, this is way faster. He understood but didn't answer, didn't answer. This is way faster. Or the same as the next example. I like eating and talking. So this is basically without any linking. I'm not linking anything. So instead of saying I like eating and I stop after like, I can say I like eating, I like eating, like eating, like eating. So I'm just connecting like eating, eating, eating. So connecting like with eating. And instead of saying and, I can say and talking. So I like eating, and talking. I like eating and talking. I like eating and talking. Eating and talking. And the next one, the same. I don't often buy clothes and shoes. Again, instead of saying I don't often, I can say I don't often. Even that N at the end of often can be reduced. You can also just not pronounce the N, but if you pronounce it, that's fine. You can say I don't often buy clothes and shoes. I don't often buy clothes and shoes. So you can say it that way and you can reduce the sounds. Now we're going to watch a couple of videos from Top Notch, which Each of these videos referring to different ways of linking sounds with T, with H, with Y, different kinds of reductions, blending sounds. So let's watch them one by one, and I'm going to describe and explain them afterward. Of course, the videos are pretty simple, so you can understand them. But again, we can practice and try to repeat. Pause the video at the end and repeat all those sentences so that you try to practice it. If you don't repeat, watching these videos is not going to be enough. You have to repeat them also, just like the audio file. Okay, let's watch.
Linking sounds. We often link words together when we speak. Listen to the linking sounds in this is. This is my sister. With linking, we say this is and not this is. This is. Listen to the way we link lives in. She lives in New York. We say lives in and not lives in. Lives in. The sound s or z links to the next word. Listen to these examples of linking with s and z. This is my neighbor. She lives in my apartment building. It's a big apartment. It has a dining room. He works at the hospital. There's a restaurant downstairs. Now listen and repeat. Click on pause after each sentence. This is my neighbor. She lives in my apartment building. It's a big apartment. It has a dining room. He works at the hospital. There's a restaurant downstairs.
Very good. So as you can see, let me a little bit go further. Here, you can see the z sounds usually links to the next word. You connect them to the next word and you pronounce as if it's one word. Like instead of saying this is, we say this is, lives in, it's a, has a, works at, there's a. You see, you're connecting this. Instead of just saying it separately, you're trying to connect them. He works at the hospital. He works at the hospital. Instead of saying he works at the hospital. Or it has a dining room. It's a big apartment. So it's a big apartment. That's one of the ways that we can link sounds. Now let's go to another video. Sound reduction in present perfect. Let's see what this one says.
Sound reduction in the present perfect. In conversation, we use the contractions haven't and hasn't much more often than the full forms have not and has not. When we use the contractions haven't and hasn't, we often don't say the sound t at the end. Listen. I haven't met them before. She hasn't called. Listen to these examples with haven't. We haven't eaten dinner. I haven't seen you in a long time. I haven't finished the book. Listen to these examples with hasn't. She hasn't been to Japan. He hasn't answered my email. He hasn't studied English before. Now listen and repeat. Click on pause after each sentence. We haven't eaten dinner. I haven't seen you in a long time. I haven't finished the book. She hasn't been to Japan. He hasn't answered my email. He hasn't studied English before.
Very good. So as you can see on all these examples, in present perfect, when you want to say the negative form of have or has, which is haven't or hasn't, we do not pronounce the T sound at the end. And we don't say she hasn't been to Japan. We say he or she hasn't been, not hasn't been. So this is another technique to, let's say, speak more fluently and faster in order to reduce that amount of, because that T would definitely stop you a little bit. She hasn't been to Japan, but instead you can say she hasn't been to Japan, or he hasn't answered, she hasn't. So you see, it's way easier. Now let's watch another video about reduction of H or sound.
Reduction of Notice how the sound often disappears in natural speech. We often drop the sound in the words have and has in the present perfect. Listen. What have you done? How long has she lived here? We also often drop the sound in words like he, his, and her. Listen. Did he go? What's her address? Notice that when we drop the sound, we link the rest of the word to the word before it. What have you done? Did he go? We do not drop the sound at the beginning of a sentence. Listen. Have you seen the movie? He saw it last night. Listen to these examples with have and has. Notice how the sound disappears. What have you been up to? How long have they lived here? What has she told you? Where has she gone? Listen to these examples with he, his, and her. Notice how the sound disappears. Did he like the movie? What's his name again? Who's her favorite actor? Now listen and repeat. Click on pause after each question. What have you been up to? How long have they lived here? What has she told you? Where has she gone? Did he like the movie? What's his name again? Who's her favorite actor?
Very good, very good. So as you can see, this is the H sound. This is connecting two words and dropping the sound of H. So basically what you have to do is drop this and connect these two together. So instead of saying what have, you say what have, what have. Instead of saying how long have, becomes how long have, long have. What has becomes what as, what as. Or where has becomes whereas, whereas. So you connect them. You connect the last letter to the first letter after H, and you don't pronounce the H sound or sound. Or did he, the same. With he, his, or her, again, you do the same thing. You drop the H and you connect it with the word after. Becomes did he, becomes did he, did he. What's his becomes what's his, what's his. Who's her becomes who's her, who's her. Who's her favorite actor? Who's her favorite actor? Instead of saying who's her favorite actor. So you drop the H and you connect this with the sound after H, and this time you can speak faster and more fluent. These are the lessons that native English speakers, they normally, without knowing, they do this. But here you are learning it. You know how they sound like native English speakers. Of course, you don't need to sound like native English speakers, but these are all important things that will help you to improve your fluency, to speak more fluent when you're speaking English. Try to link sounds, try to have Sound like a natural English speaker, not like a robot. That's our goal. And also examiners will love these techniques. If they see that you're doing them, definitely will love it. Now let's go to another one, reduction of to in infinitives.
Reduction of to in infinitives. In natural speech, the word to is often unstressed. Listen. I love to travel. Unstressed words sound short and weak. I love to travel. When to comes before a verb to form the infinitive, the vowel is usually reduced to the short, weak sound a. I love to travel. She wants to watch a movie. Listen to these examples. Notice the reduced pronunciation of to in the infinitives. She likes to wear bright colors. I need to work late tonight. We decided to paint the kitchen. He plans to study marketing. I'd like to live in the country. They agreed to meet later. Now listen and repeat. Click on pause after each sentence. She likes to wear bright colors. I need to work late tonight. We decided to paint the kitchen. He plans to study marketing. I'd like to live in the country. They agreed to meet later.
Very good. So as you can see, when we're using to with infinitives in an infinitive way, to wear, to work, to paint, to study, after to, there's a verb, which we call it infinitive. In that case, that to is normally pronounced really weak. We don't put a stress on it and we don't pronounce it really hard. Instead of saying she likes to wear, we say she likes to. She likes to wear, she likes to wear, not to wear, to wear, or I need to work becomes I need to work. I need to work, I need to work. We decided to, no, we decided to paint, to paint. He plans to study, no, he plans to study, he plans to study. I'd like to live, I'd like to live, to live, to live, I'd like to live. They agreed to meet becomes they agreed to meet, not to. So very short and weak sound, to becomes t. Very fast. In that case, you can pronounce it and connects words together. In that case, you can connect the words pretty fast in that way. Now let's watch the last video about blending. Blending means you just put them together and create another sound. Let's see how that's going to work with D and Y.
Blending of D and Y in would you. In natural speech, we link words together. Sometimes when we link words together, sounds that are next to each other blend together and change. Listen. Would you? When we link would you, we blend the words together and say, would you? The sound d at the end of would and the sound y at the beginning of you come together to make the sound j. Would you? For example, what would you do? Listen to these examples with would you. Where would you go? How would you feel? What would you do if you found someone's phone? How would you feel if you lost your wallet? Who would you call if you saw an accident? Where would you live if you could live anywhere? Now listen and repeat. Click on pause after each question. Where would you go? How would you feel? What would you do if you found someone's phone? How would you feel if you lost your wallet? Who would you call if you saw an accident? Where would you live if you could live anywhere?
Very good. So again, as you can see, this is blending sound. Most people pronounce it like would you, which is not wrong, but natural speech when we're talking in, let's say, those native English speakers, when they're talking, they normally pronounce this would you, where would you go, what would you do? Like usually would you becomes would you. So this is one lesson about would you. So next time you can, instead of saying would you can say would you. Now teacher, if I say would you, is it wrong? No, it's also correct, but it's harder than would you. Would you is like one word. Would you sounds like two words. Where would you go? Where would you go? Where would you go? Where would you go? See? Faster. These are all ways to improve your fluency. Now, let's try to listen and notice how the speaker does not pronounce the cross-out letters, joins the words indicated with those, let's say, linking sounds here. Let's listen and see how you can do it as well. So some of the sounds, we don't pronounce it, like I think it, no, we don't pronounce the T sound, for example, here. Let's see how. Or money with a bit. Again, the T, we don't pronounce it. Girls spend. Let's see how we can pronounce these words without these consonants at the end.
I think it really depends because girls and boys typically spend their money a bit differently. I guess girls spend more money on clothes and magazines, while boys spend more money on music and things like football matches. In general, though, I think both boys and girls spend a lot of money just going out to places and having a good time.
Very good, very good. So if you didn't understand, pause the video, go back, watch it again, listen a couple of times to understand exactly how they're doing it. If you want to, you have to just listen to it maybe 5 times, okay? So don't be like shy or anything to do that. Try to do it a couple of times, listen to it again so that you feel completely comfortable understanding all the things that she's saying in this audio file. So you see, this is another blending sound and how you can blend the sounds. Like here, you say, okay, teacher, but if I say, I guess, girls and not saying girl, that's wrong. No, here, because there is another S after that. So you don't need to just double S it here. Girls spend. Instead of that, girls spend. So you just make it one word. Instead of saying girls spend, no, girls spend. Just make it one word and you say one S. In that case, you don't need to pause or reduce your fluency with that. Or instead of, for example, money on, you can say money on, or instead of saying music and, you can say music and, things like football matches. So in that case, you can improve your fluency practicing this way. Now, in order to speak more fluently, you sometimes put a consonant between the first and second word when the second word begins with a vowel. So let's see how we can do that and what does it mean. So here are some examples. As you can see, all these examples, they have two words in each example. There are 2 words, and there's something between these words that we have an extra sound between these 2 words. Why? Because this word and this word, the second word starts with a vowel. So that's why we have some kind of extra sound. Now here, the extra sound is E or Y. The second example, R or R sound, and this one, W or W sound. Let's see how.
A. With the occupants, a family standing in the garden. On the other hand, living in the city flat might be quite exciting. B. Where they grow their own vegetables. Money and success in your career are not so important as being close to nature and the countryside, which is probably busier and more stressful. C. Money and success in your career are not so important. The family in the second photo must need to earn quite a lot of money.
Very good. So as you can see in the first example, the occupants, the like E, there's one E sound here, the occupants, or on the other hand, not on the other, on the other, no, on the other hand, living in a city flat might be quite exciting. The second example, we have R sound, their own, their own, their own. There is somehow a R, like a roan, their own. Or the second one, nature and, r. Or the second one, busier and. Or the other example, we have a W sound, so important, so important. Or to earn, instead of to earn, it says to earn. So we have a W sound so that you can link the words together. You connect the words instead of pronouncing them separately. Now the question is, Max, do we have a rule for this? Again, no, there is no rule. It's just by listening and see how sentences are built in English, how people are pronouncing these words. But basically, some of the rules that we mentioned are like would you, haven't, hasn't, he's, her. Yeah, those are always the same. You can pronounce them. But this one, there is no such a thing as a 100% rule. But mostly, what you can see is that, sorry, I just played it one time. One thing that you can see here is that usually when they finish with the R sound, you add another R sound after that. Or when they finish with the E sound, you add another E sound here. Or here again, the same. Here is the same. You have O sound, so you add another O sound after that. So the rule, we can say it is like this. You add one more time another sound, the same as the last letter sound of the first word, if your second word starts with vowel. In that only case, you can do that, and you can create somehow an extra sound, and you connect the words together. All right, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next lesson.